Fred was not just a wealthy man. He was a billionaire, a true titan of industry whose name echoed through the corridors of power and commerce across the African continent and beyond. His net worth was a figure so astronomical, so utterly vast, that it seemed to exist in a realm far removed from everyday reality. His household was managed by a team of highly trained staff. He had personal chefs, skilled in cuisines from every corner of the globe, who could whip up a five-star meal at a moment's notice. But he utterly lacked the one thing he craved most, the one thing that seemed to elude his grasp with maddening consistency: genuine human connection. His heart, despite beating within the confines of such a privileged existence, felt like a vast, echoing void. It was a loneliness that no amount of money could fill, a quiet despair that even the most expensive champagne couldn't drown. Every woman he encountered, every potential romantic partner introduced by his well-meaning business associates or the social climbing families desperate to link their lineage with his, seemed undeniably captivated by his fortune, not his essence. Dinners, even at the most exclusive restaurants in Victoria Island or Was II in Abuja, were rarely filled with talk of shared dreams, intellectual curiosities, or the simple joys of life. Instead, conversations invariably revolved around the latest designer bags from Gucci or Louis Vuitton, the most expensive diamond jewelry, lavish holidays to Monaco, Bora Bora, or the Maldives, and the immense social prestige that came with merely being seen on the arm of the great Fred. He endured countless hours of superficial banter, where laughter felt forced and smiles seemed meticulously calculated, designed to impress rather than express genuine warmth. He yearned for discussions about life's simpler pleasures, about real emotions, about vulnerability, about shared passions that transcended material desires. But those authentic, heart-to-heart conversations simply never came. His wealth had built an invisible, insurmountable wall around him. He yearned for a love that saw beyond the astronomical zeros in his bank account, beyond the prestigious brand names stitched into his suits, beyond the imposing address of his Ikoyi mansion. He wanted someone who would cherish Fred, the man with his quiet moments of introspection, his subtle sense of humor, his genuine kindness that few ever saw, and his simple, profound desire for companionship. He dreamt of a love that was pure, untainted by the dazzling, often corrupting, allure of his billions. He wanted to be loved for who he was, for his character, for his soul, not for what he possessed. The irony was a cruel twist of fate. The more he had, the less he felt truly seen, truly valued for his innate self. His wealth, rather than being a key to boundless happiness, had become a formidable, impenetrable barrier, attracting only those who sought to benefit from its immense power and prestige. One evening, as the sun dipped below the Lagos skyline, painting the sky in fiery hues of orange, purple, and gold, Fred stood by his expansive floor-to-ceiling window in Ikoyi. The city lights began to twinkle in the distance, a vibrant, living tapestry of life outside his secluded, silent world. He reflected on his life, on the constant performance, the charade he felt he was living day in and day out. He contemplated the emptiness that gnawed at him despite all his material success. And then, amidst the quiet despair, an idea, as audacious as it was brilliant, began to spark in his mind. It was a thought so radical, so utterly contrary to his established reality, that it initially made him smile with its sheer impossibility, then sobered him with its undeniable potential. He would shed his golden identity. He would discard the overwhelming trappings of his immense wealth and step into the bustling, anonymous world as a man with absolutely nothing but his true self to offer. He would seek love, genuine, unconditional love, not in the opulent, exclusive circles he currently inhabited, but in the humble, unassuming corners of Lagos, among the everyday people. He would find someone who loved him for him, someone who saw past the immense shadow of his fortune and truly into the heart of the man beneath. It was a desperate gamble, a risky venture into the profound unknown, a leap of faith into a life he had never known. But for Fred, the man trapped in the gilded cage of his own making. It was the only path left to find the authentic love and connection he so desperately craved, the only hope for a life truly lived. With his audacious plan solidified, Fred embarked on the most challenging transformation of his life, shedding his billionaire skin to become an ordinary man. This wasn't merely about changing clothes or adopting a new name. It was about fundamentally altering his entire public persona, his very mannerisms, and his daily existence. He had to become Femi, a common Yoruba name meaning "love me" or "God loves me," a name deliberately chosen to reflect his desperate search for genuine affection, for a love unburdened by his immense fortune. First, the wardrobe overhaul was drastic. Out went the custom-tailored suits from London's Savile Row, the silk shirts, and the polished Italian leather shoes that cost more than most people's annual salaries. In their place, Femi acquired a collection of everyday Nigerian attire. Simple, slightly faded jeans, plain cotton t-shirts, and the ubiquitous, practical cleaner's uniform, a blue work shirt, sturdy trousers, and a faded cap. He even bought a pair of inexpensive, worn-out canvas shoes, deliberately scuffing them further to complete the look. His once immaculately groomed hair was allowed to grow out slightly, losing its sharp cut and adopting a more unkempt, natural style. The subtle, expensive scent of his designer cologne was replaced by the fresh, yet unassuming, aroma of a generic, everyday laundry detergent. Every single detail was considered, every outward sign of his immense wealth systematically dismantled to ensure absolute anonymity. But the disguise penetrated far deeper than superficial appearances. Fred, the business mogul who commanded immediate respect with a mere glance and a few powerful words, had to learn the inherent humility and often grueling physical demands of manual labor. He couldn't just look like a cleaner, he had to convincingly be one. He quietly spent days observing professional cleaners at work, meticulously noting their techniques, their rhythm, the efficient way they moved through spaces with their tools. He practiced mopping, sweeping, and scrubbing in an unused section of one of his smaller, less frequented commercial properties in Ikeja, until the movements felt less alien, less forced, and more natural to his unaccustomed muscles. He even developed a slightly more slumped posture, a subtle shift that made him seem less imposing, less authoritative, and more approachable to the average person. He learned to carry the weight of the bucket with a certain practiced ease, and the mop with a familiar swing. His choice of location for this grand experiment was absolutely crucial. It couldn't be one of his own opulent buildings, where his face might be recognized by longtime staff or former business associates who frequented his establishments. Instead, he strategically chose a bustling, mid-sized office complex in Surulere, Lagos, a vibrant, predominantly middle-class district renowned for its eclectic mix of residential areas, thriving commercial activity, and lively, often chaotic, streets. It was a true melting pot, a place where people from countless different walks of life converged daily, perfect for blending in, remaining unobserved, and being truly unburdened by the crushing weight of his former identity. He secured a cleaning position through a temporary agency, using carefully fabricated references and a modest, yet believable, backstory. He told them he was a recent arrival from a small, rural town in Ogun State, seeking honest work in the sprawling metropolis of Lagos. Femi began his new life as a cleaner. His mornings now started before dawn, catching a crowded danfo like millions of other hard-working Lagosians, joining the relentless rhythm of the city's daily commute. The initial days were a jarring, almost brutal, contrast to his pampered existence. The physical labor was intensely tiring, his unconditioned muscles aching in ways he'd never known. The early mornings were grueling, forcing him out of bed before the sun even thought of rising. And the constant, vibrant noise and ceaseless activity of the bustling office building were a world away from the serene, insulated silence of his Ikoyi mansion. But with each swipe of the mop, each brimming waste bin emptied, he felt a strange, profound sense of liberation. No one knew he was Fred, the billionaire. No one cared about his net worth, his market shares, or his global influence. He was simply Femi, the cleaner, just another face in the immense crowd. He moved through the office floors, a silent, almost invisible observer. He watched the employees, listened intently to their everyday conversations, their office gossip, their weekend plans, their frustrations with demanding bosses, and their small, personal victories. He saw the diverse, complex tapestry of Lagos life unfolding before him, raw and unfiltered by the distorting lens of immense wealth. And then, amidst the constant hum of computers, the ringing of phones, and the general chatter of colleagues, he saw her. Her name was Mitchell. She was an administrative assistant on the 4th floor, known not only for her meticulous work and organizational skills, but, more importantly, for her unwavering kindness and quiet dignity. She wasn't the loudest or the flashiest person in the office, but her presence radiated a quiet warmth. She had a gentle, approachable smile that seemed to reach her eyes, and her laughter, when it occasionally rang out, was like clear, melodic music amidst the mundane office sounds. Femi observed her quietly at first, a sense of intrigue growing within him. She dressed simply but always impeccably, favoring well-pressed Ankara print dresses and modest, yet elegant, blouses over flashy designer labels. She was incredibly diligent in her work, often staying a little later to ensure every task was completed perfectly, never complaining. He couldn't help but notice how she interacted with everyone around her. From the stern-faced senior managers to the security guards at the main entrance, she treated them all with the same genuine respect, a pleasant demeanor, and an open, kind heart. There was absolutely no pretense about Mitchell, no airs of superiority, no hint of looking down on others. She was just Mitchell. Femi felt an instant, undeniable pull towards her. This wasn't the fleeting, superficial attraction he'd felt for countless women who had paraded themselves before him in his former life. This was different. This was a quiet, profound recognition, a feeling that resonated deep within his very soul. Here was a woman whose inner light shone brightly, a light unburdened by material desires, social calculations, or any form of pretense. She was real, authentically herself. And in that pivotal moment, disguised as Femi, the humble cleaner, Fred, the billionaire, knew with absolute certainty that he had finally found what he had truly been searching for all along. His golden cage, for the very first time, felt like its elaborate lock was slowly, almost miraculously, beginning to unfasten. With Mitchell now firmly established as the focus of his profound experiment, Fred, in his meticulously crafted disguise as Femi, the humble cleaner, began the delicate and often challenging dance of building a genuine connection. He understood implicitly that he couldn't simply approach her as the powerful billionaire Fred. That would instantly shatter the very purpose of his elaborate charade, throwing him back into the isolating golden cage he so desperately sought to escape. His interactions with her had to be organic, they had to be natural, and crucially, they had to be rooted entirely in his unassuming cleaner persona. Authenticity was paramount, even if built upon a foundation of strategic concealment. He started subtly, almost imperceptibly, observing her routine and finding small, unobtrusive ways to be in her vicinity. While performing his cleaning duties on the 4th floor, he would deliberately linger a little longer near Mitchell's desk, ensuring his presence was noted but never felt intrusive or overtly noticeable. He'd offer a polite "good morning, ma'am," or "good afternoon, ma'am," his voice respectful and unassuming, carefully modulated to fit his new role. Mitchell, true to her inherently kind and gracious nature, would invariably respond with a warm, genuine smile and a friendly greeting, never dismissive, never condescending, never looking down on him because of his perceived status. This consistent, unwavering warmth, extended without judgment to a mere cleaner, was the very first brick, a solid and reassuring one, in the foundation of Fred's rapidly growing admiration for her. Each polite exchange, no matter how brief, chipped away at the cynical shell that had formed around his heart. Soon, these brief, polite exchanges began to evolve, subtly yet significantly. One busy afternoon, Mitchell, engrossed in her work, accidentally knocked over a precariously stacked box of files, sending papers scattering across the polished floor in a chaotic flurry. Before anyone else in the busy office could even fully react or offer assistance, Femi was there, moving swiftly and efficiently. He dropped his mop and bucket, kneeling to help her gather the scattered documents, his movements surprisingly agile and practiced for someone in his humble role. "No worries at all, ma'am," he'd said, his eyes meeting hers with a reassuring, kind glance. Mitchell had thanked him profusely, her genuine gratitude shining through her initial embarrassment. It was a seemingly small, inconsequential incident in the grand scheme of things, but in that shared moment of quiet cooperation, Fred saw her innate humility and grace up close, unmarred by any sense of entitlement or pretension. He saw her as a human being, genuinely appreciative of a simple act of kindness, a quality he rarely encountered in his upper echelons. From that point on, he began to notice the more intricate nuances of her daily life in the office. He observed her unwavering patience with demanding colleagues and difficult clients on the phone. He saw her remarkable willingness to stay late, long after her shift, just to help a junior intern struggling with a complex task. He witnessed her numerous, quiet acts of spontaneous kindness, like sharing her perfectly packed Nigerian lunch of jollof rice and chicken with a new, shy employee, or offering a soft, comforting word to a distressed coworker struggling with a personal issue. He noticed her unwavering dedication to her work, the meticulous way she approached every single task, no matter how mundane, with diligence and a genuine desire to do it perfectly. There was an inherent integrity about Mitchell, a quiet strength and moral compass that resonated deeply with Fred, standing in stark contrast to the superficiality and often cutthroat ambition he was accustomed to in his business world. Their interactions slowly but surely progressed from polite pleasantries to brief, yet increasingly genuine and personal conversations during their coffee breaks in the cramped office pantry, or while Femi was discreetly tidying the communal kitchen area. He learned about her life outside the office, her modest background, and most captivatingly, her deeply held dreams that were refreshingly devoid of grand wealth or luxurious possessions. Mitchell spoke passionately about her desire to open a small community learning center in her ancestral village in Kogi State. She envisioned a place where children, who had limited access to books, technology, and quality educational resources, could immerse themselves in stories, explore the world through literature, learn essential digital skills, and ultimately expand their horizons beyond the confines of their immediate surroundings. Her eyes would light up, sparkling with an almost childlike wonder and pure, unadulterated passion, whenever she spoke of this cherished aspiration, a passion that utterly captivated and enthralled Fred. He listened intently, truly listened, something he realized with a pang of self-awareness he had rarely done in his former, fast-paced life. There were no hidden agendas in their conversations, no underlying expectations of gain, no pre-calculated business strategies at play. He was simply Femi, a cleaner, listening to Mitchell, an administrative assistant, share her heartfelt aspirations, her simple joys, and her quiet frustrations. He found himself drawn powerfully to her unwavering optimism, her remarkable resilience in the face of life's challenges, and her profound, innate sense of community and responsibility. He saw how she treated everyone, from the lowliest security guard at the entrance to the highest-ranking executive of the company, with the same consistent respect, warmth, and genuine human courtesy. She never, not once, looked down on his perceived status as a cleaner. In her eyes, he was simply another human being, worthy of kindness and attention, deserving of respect. This complete lack of snobbery, this pure egalitarianism, was a revelation to Fred. With every shared laugh over a clumsy office mishap, every quick, meaningful chat about the daily news, or a brief, insightful discussion about life in Lagos, Femi's admiration for Mitchell deepened, transforming into something far more profound than mere affection. He was falling in love, truly, authentically, for the very first time in his life. This was not the calculated, often cold affection he had experienced before, meticulously predicated on his financial standing or social influence. This was a love born from shared moments of vulnerability and understanding, from genuine respect for her character, and an overwhelming appreciation for her intrinsic, beautiful essence. He felt truly seen, completely seen, not for his immense assets, not for his powerful name, but for the man he was underneath the carefully constructed disguise. The golden cage of his wealth, which had once felt so suffocating and isolating, was slowly, brick by painstaking brick, being dismantled by the simple, authentic, and life-affirming connection he was building with Mitchell. He knew, with a certainty that both thrilled and terrified him, that he had finally found the true treasure he had been searching for all along, a treasure far more valuable than all his billions combined. This was real. This was love. As days bled into weeks, and weeks into a full, transformative month, the bond between Femi and Mitchell had deepened into something profound, beautiful, and undeniably real. Their shared laughter became more frequent, their conversations more intimate, weaving a tapestry of shared experiences and burgeoning affection. They had moved far beyond mere office pleasantries, often meeting after work for a quick, unpretentious meal at a local eatery, a leisurely stroll through a quiet park in Maryland, or simply finding a peaceful spot to talk about their day, their dreams, and the small victories and frustrations of everyday life in Lagos. Fred, in his carefully constructed disguise as Femi, felt a joy, a contentment, and a sense of belonging he had never once experienced in his opulent, billionaire life. He was truly happy, truly seen, and truly genuinely loved, for the very first time. But with this burgeoning, exhilarating happiness came an increasingly heavy and oppressive burden. The enormous secret of his true identity. The deception, though born of a desperate, almost primal yearning for genuine love and connection, now felt like a ticking time bomb, threatening to shatter everything he had meticulously built. His heart ached with an intense, almost physical pain, with the desire to be completely honest with Mitchell, to lay bare his entire truth, to reveal the vast, hidden landscape of his real life. Yet, a paralyzing fear gnawed relentlessly at him. What would her reaction be? Would she feel profoundly betrayed by his elaborate charade? Would she believe that his love for her was truly genuine? Or would she perceive it as a cruel, manipulative game played by a man with too much time and money on his hands? The thought of losing her, now that he had finally found true connection, true understanding, and true companionship, was utterly unbearable. A prospect far worse than any business failure or financial loss. He wrestled with the agonizing decision for what felt like an eternity, spending countless sleepless nights pacing the modest, unassuming apartment he had rented in Acadia for his disguise. He imagined countless scenarios, each more terrifying than the last, most of them ending with Mitchell's heartbroken, betrayed expression, her turning away from him in disgust, her beautiful smile replaced by a look of profound disappointment. But the alternative, living a perpetual lie, forever hiding a fundamental, monumental part of himself from the woman he loved more than life itself, was equally, if not more, unbearable. He knew, deep down in the core of his being, that their beautiful, pure, and honest connection simply could not truly flourish, could not survive, under the immense, suffocating shadow of such a significant secret. Honesty, no matter how potentially painful or destructive, was the only path forward, the only way to truly honor the love they had found. One balmy evening, after a particularly pleasant day where they had spent hours talking about their shared dreams, their personal aspirations, and the little joys that made life meaningful, they found themselves at their usual buka in Yaba. They were enjoying a plate of perfectly cooked umla with rich yudu soup and bigairai, the familiar, comforting flavors a stark contrast to the churning anxiety in Fred's stomach. The air was filled with the vibrant, characteristic sounds of Lagos, the distant hum of traffic, the lively chatter of fellow diners, the rhythmic beat of Afrobeats music drifting from a nearby stall. Mitchell was recounting a particularly funny incident from her workday, her eyes sparkling with genuine amusement, her laughter bright and infectious. Femi listened, a fixed smile on his face, but his mind was elsewhere, locked in a battle with his own courage. This was it. This was the moment. He cleared his throat, the sound surprisingly loud and strained to his own ears amidst the background noise. Mitchell paused, her smile slowly fading, sensing the sudden, palpable shift in his demeanor, the uncharacteristic tension that now radiated from him. "Mitchell," he began, his voice a little rougher, a little more fragile than usual, betraying the immense effort it took to speak the words. "There's something very important, something fundamental that I need to tell you. It's about me." He took another deep, shaky breath, the very act an immense effort. He looked directly into her eyes, willing her to see the unvarnished truth in his gaze, to understand the complex reasons behind his actions, not just the shocking words he was about to utter. "My real name is not Femi. My name is Fred." He paused, letting the name hang heavy in the air, knowing its immense weight and significance in Nigerian business circles, the immediate recognition it would carry. "And I am not a cleaner. I am the owner of this very office complex where you work, and many, many others across Lagos and Abuja. I own the telecommunications company you use, the hotels in Victoria Island, the shipping lines you see at the ports." The words, once so terrifying and impossible to utter, tumbled out, a torrent of raw, unvarnished honesty. Mitchell's eyes widened, first in pure disbelief, then a complex kaleidoscope of emotions crossed her beautiful face. A pang of hurt, confusion, and perhaps even a hint of profound betrayal. Her fork clattered loudly against her ceramic plate, the small sound jarring in the sudden silence that seemed to engulf them. The vibrant sounds of the buka seemed to fade into a distant, muffled hum, as if the world around them had suddenly muted itself to witness this pivotal moment. Fred, now truly Fred, reached across the table, his hand gently, tentatively covering hers. His touch was reassuring yet hesitant. "Please, Mitchell," he pleaded, his voice thick with genuine emotion. "Please, let me explain everything. Let me tell you why." He poured out his heart, the words a torrent of raw, unfiltered honesty. He spoke of the golden cage his immense wealth had become, the crushing, soul-destroying loneliness that had haunted his every waking moment, the suffocating superficiality of every relationship he had ever known, where his identity was solely defined by his billions. He vividly described his desperate, almost primal yearning for genuine love, for someone who would truly see him, the man beneath the immense layers of fortune and power, not just the staggering zeros in his bank account. He explained in agonizing detail how he had embarked on this elaborate disguise, not with any malicious intent to deceive her, but with a desperate, almost childlike hope to find the truth, to find love that was pure, untainted, and real. "When I first saw you, Mitchell," he confessed, his voice trembling slightly with the weight of his feelings, "your kindness, your unparalleled grace, your unwavering dignity, your truly genuine spirit, you captivated me in a way no one ever had. You treated me, Femi the cleaner, with the exact same respect and warmth you showed everyone else, regardless of their status. You saw past the worn uniform, past the perceived low social standing. You saw me, and in those moments, those simple, everyday interactions with you, I felt more seen, more valued, more genuinely loved than I ever have in my entire life, even amidst all my billions." His gaze was unwavering, piercing, pleading for her understanding, for her forgiveness. "I know this is an enormous amount to take in. I know you might feel betrayed, perhaps even used. But please, Mitchell, believe me when I tell you, my feelings for you are real. They are profoundly real. They are the truest, most authentic thing I have ever felt in my entire existence. The immense weight of his confession hung heavy in the air, thick with unspoken emotions, with the raw vulnerability of a man who had laid his soul bare. Mitchell stared at him, her mind reeling, trying desperately to process the incredible, life-altering revelation. The man she knew as Femi, the humble, kind cleaner she had grown to care for, to confide in, to love, was actually Fred, the billionaire, a name synonymous with power, immense wealth, and global influence. The shock was immense, almost physical, but as she looked into his earnest, vulnerable, almost pleading eyes, she saw not deceit, not manipulation, but a desperate, profound, and utterly genuine love. She saw the man, not the money. The ball was now entirely in her court, and the future of their connection hung precariously in the balance. The silence that followed Fred's heartfelt confession at the buka was thick, heavy with the weight of unspoken emotions, yet it was not hostile. Mitchell stared at him, her mind a whirlwind, attempting to reconcile the humble, kind cleaner, Femi, with the formidable billionaire, Fred. A complex kaleidoscope of emotions surged within her. Initial shock, a sharp pang of hurt from the deception, profound confusion, and yet, beneath it all, the undeniable, persistent echo of the deep, authentic connection they had forged over weeks of genuine interaction. She gently, almost instinctively, pulled her hand away, needing a moment, a space to breathe, to think, to truly process this monumental, life-altering revelation. Fred, she whispered, his true name feeling utterly foreign, almost jarring on her tongue after weeks of calling him Femi. How could you possibly hide something so immense, so fundamental? Her voice was laced with a deep-seated hurt and bewildered confusion, rather than outright anger. There was no accusation, only a desperate need for clarity. Fred's gaze remained unwavering, intense, filled with a desperate plea for her understanding, for her forgiveness. He reiterated his story, not as a flimsy excuse for his actions, but as a raw, honest confession of his profound, soul-crushing loneliness and his desperate yearning for genuine, unconditional affection. He spoke of the golden cage his immense wealth had become, the suffocating isolation that had plagued his every waking moment, the unbearable superficiality of every single relationship he had ever known, where his very identity seemed solely defined by his staggering billions. He vividly described how he had felt utterly invisible as Fred, how people only saw his money, not his heart. He explained in agonizing detail how he had embarked on this elaborate, risky disguise, not with any malicious intent to deceive her, but with a desperate, almost childlike hope to find the truth, to find a love that was pure, untainted by materialism and unequivocally real. When I first saw you, Mitchell, he confessed, his voice trembling slightly with the sheer weight of his emotions. Your inherent kindness, your unparalleled grace, your unwavering dignity, your truly genuine spirit. You captivated me in a way no one ever had before. You treated me, Femi the cleaner, with the exact same respect and warmth you showed everyone else, regardless of their social standing or perceived status. You saw past the worn uniform, past the perceived low social standing. You saw me, you saw the man, and in those precious moments, those simple, everyday interactions with you, I felt more seen, more valued, more genuinely loved than I ever have in my entire life, even amidst all my billions and all the power they wield. His gaze was unblinking, piercing, pleading for her understanding, for her compassionate forgiveness. I know this is an enormous amount to take in. I know you might feel profoundly betrayed, perhaps even used by my unconventional approach. But please, Mitchell, believe me when I tell you, my feelings for you are unequivocally real. They are profoundly real. They are, without a shadow of a doubt, the truest, most authentic thing I have ever felt in my entire existence. The immense weight of his confession hung heavy in the air, thick with unspoken emotions, with the raw, exposed vulnerability of a man who had laid his very soul bare. Mitchell stared at him, her mind reeling, attempting desperately to process the incredible, paradigm-shifting revelation. The man she knew as Femi, the humble, kind cleaner she had grown to care for, to confide in, to deeply admire, and ultimately, to love, was actually Fred, the billionaire, a name synonymous with unimaginable power, immense wealth, and global influence across Nigeria and beyond. The shock was immense, almost physical, but as she looked deeply into his earnest, vulnerable, almost pleading eyes, she saw not deceit, not calculated manipulation, but a desperate, profound, and utterly genuine love. She saw the man, the very essence of who he was, not merely the dizzying sum of his assets. The ball was now entirely in her court, and the fragile future of their burgeoning connection hung precariously, yet hopefully, in the balance. It was not an immediate, instantaneous acceptance. Amara needed time. She took a few days to herself, retreating into her quiet space, to reflect deeply, to pray earnestly, to weigh the incredible, shocking truth against the undeniable, visceral feelings that had blossomed so beautifully and organically in her heart. She spent hours replaying their interactions, searching for any hint of artifice, any sign of a lie in his eyes or words. But all she could recall were moments of genuine connection, of shared laughter, of quiet understanding. She remembered how Femi had always been consistently kind, unfailingly respectful, and genuinely interested in her life, her struggles, and her cherished dreams. She recalled his quiet strength, his gentle humor, and the specific way he had looked at her, not with the calculating, assessing gaze of a powerful man, but with the sincere warmth and unvarnished honesty of a man who truly saw her for who she was, beyond any societal labels or economic status. With each passing hour, however, Fred's undeniable sincerity, his unwavering devotion during their time together, and the profound, authentic connection they had already painstakingly built, slowly yet surely melted her initial reservations, transforming uncertainty into understanding. She came to a powerful realization. Fred, the billionaire, was indeed the very same kind, humble, and gentle man she had come to know and love as Femi. His wealth, she concluded, was simply a circumstance of his birth and hard work, a part of his life's journey. But it was not, in any way, the defining characteristic of his pure, honest soul. His true character, his genuine worth, had been unequivocally revealed not despite his disguise, but through it, stripped of all pretense. And it was that character, that authentic spirit, that she had undeniably fallen deeply in love with. And so, in a beautiful, heartfelt ceremony that meticulously blended rich Nigerian cultural customs with elegant modern touches, Fred and Mitchell were married. It wasn't an ostentatious, extravagant display of his immense wealth designed to impress, but rather a profoundly meaningful, joyous celebration of their unique love story. It was attended by their closest family and dearest friends, many of whom had witnessed parts of their unconventional, inspiring journey. Mitchell, radiant and beaming in her exquisite traditional white lace gown adorned with shimmering coral beads, looked every bit the queen, not because of her husband's billions, but because of the genuine, unbridled joy and deep contentment that shone from within her very being. Fred, looking at his beautiful bride, his eyes brimming with happiness, knew with absolute certainty that he had finally found his true north, his anchor, his greatest treasure. Their extraordinary love story quickly became a cherished legend, whispered with admiration and wonder across Nigeria, from the bustling streets of Lagos to the quiet villages of Kogi State, and even in the corridors of power in Abuja. It stood as a powerful testament that true love, genuine connection, and profound understanding transcend status, wealth, and any form of disguise. Fred, once trapped and isolated in his magnificent golden cage, had found his ultimate freedom and his greatest treasure in Mitchell's humble, loving, and unequivocally genuine heart. He no longer felt the soul-crushing emptiness that had plagued him for so long. with Mitchell lovingly by his side. His life gained a profound purpose that stretched far beyond merely accumulating wealth or expanding his already vast empire. Together, they not only built a life overflowing with profound love, mutual respect, and unwavering companionship, but they also dedicated themselves wholeheartedly to making a tangible, positive difference in the lives of others. Fred, with his unparalleled resources and influence, became the silent, yet powerful, force behind Mitchell's lifelong dream. The community learning center in her ancestral village in Kogi State swiftly became a vibrant reality, a thriving hub where countless children could access essential books, modern technology, and quality educational resources. Mitchell, with Fred's unwavering support and dedicated partnership, personally oversaw its development and daily operations, her innate passion for education igniting the minds and imaginations of countless young Nigerians. Their journey continues to inspire, reminding us that the deepest, most precious treasures are never found in gold vaults or private jets, but in the pure, unconditional love of a truly genuine heart. It teaches us that true worth lies not in what we possess, but in who we are, and in the authentic connections we forge with one another. What an incredible journey of love, transformation, and self-discovery. Wouldn't you agree? Fred and Mitchell's story truly reminds us that while money can open many doors, it's the sincerity of the heart that opens the most important ones. If this captivating story resonated with you, and perhaps even made you believe a little more in the power of true love, please consider giving this video a thumbs up. And if you're new to our channel and enjoyed this deep dive into African folklore, don't forget to subscribe to African Folktales by Alexi and hit that notification bell. We have many more enchanting stories of wisdom, courage, and love from our rich African heritage waiting to be shared with you. Until next time, stay blessed.